HSR has a power creep problem only if you allow it to happen, either by greed or stupidity. First things first, I have been extremely busy. Holidays, moving, helping someone else move, employment shenanigans, etc. I also have a flight in the next 2 weeks. It's been crazy. And Mr. Pokey has woken me up from my slumber with his hot takes. It should be clear from the tone of the video that I do not like Mr. Pokey, and the reason why is that he says stuff like this all the time. Anyways, the point is, I am very biased. From my biased perspective, what Mr. Pokey said about Honkai Star Rail's power creep is an absolute turd of an argument. Many creators that I enjoy, like Lily Aquina and FL2R, I think it's their name. I still don't know how to pronounce their name. I apologize. They've made a lot of good videos on this specific take, but I feel like I could provide additional insight as someone who has a pull history that's quite different from majority of the player base. I am not free to play and have more monetary investment into the game than I would like to admit. Most of my favorite characters who I've vertically invested in are now considered to be, fallen off or not meta. I make it a point to not pull for a character that I dislike, even if they are meta defining, and I have skipped every new character from 2.0 to 2.6. Above 4 conditions have set my account for failure with the increasing HP inflation and power creep, despite investing considerably into my favorite characters. So based on Mr. Pokey's tweets, it is literally my fault for vertically investing into my favorite characters that happen to suck because I am too stupid to realize that and not investing into enough limited harmony characters. Blaming the player for shady business tactics of a billion-dollar company. Classic. Here's the thing, believe it or not, this is a character collection game for the otaku audience. Hoyo designs these characters to be appealing so that we pull for them. This isn't some numbers go big cookie clicker game. The game would not be as successful as it is if it were just that. So let me ask you this rhetorical question. What is the point of even playing this shitty game if you can't even use your favorite character in the hard content where you actually get to utilize their kits and build strategies around them? There are hundreds and maybe even thousands of games that are more fun than Honkai Star Rail. Many choose to play it for the characters and the stories that these characters tell us. Clearing content, especially hard content, with these characters are a way of spending time with your favorites and bonding with them. Because what else is there to do? How do you spend time with your characters that you deeply cherish? You can't explore an open world like in Genshin. You can't do that. Sure, you can meet them in the story, but considering there are 2 new characters that get released every single patch, the screen time of each individual characters leave more to be desired. So yeah, there is literally nothing to do with the characters that you pull other than using them in combat. And most easy combat is done through autoplay, so that just leaves endgame content. Blaming people for letting power creep happen to them because they want to use their favorite characters in the limited capacity the game allows them to is such a tragically sad move. I could have only guessed it came from Mr. Pokey. So now that I have rebutted pulling for your faves and using them in endgame and expecting to clear is stupid side of the argument, let's tackle the other. Just have a better pull plan, bro. Seele was meta-defining. Silverwolf had a skill that allowed players to bypass the elemental restrictions and for a time were considered to be one of the strongest supports. Dilf and Jingliu were also meta-defining. How are players supposed to know that characters that were once meta-defining will be banished into the Shadow Realm in 1 or 2 patches? Players have limited information, and because of that, they usually lack the ability to judge whether or not their decision to pull is good in the moment. That decision can only be judged in hindsight. Again, Silverwolf got Powercreep by Hoyo releasing a DPS character that can directly bypass one of the core mechanics of the game by self-implanting a weakness with a click of their skill. Who could have imagined that when Silverwolf first released? Could you have also imagined that Hoyo would just throw the whole DOT archetype in the ditch and pretend that it didn't exist? So let's stop pretending that your quote-unquote pull plan is any more valid than other people's quote-unquote pull plans. When the meta environment is as volatile as it is now, I would say pulling for meta-defining characters are a huge risk. What makes you so sure that they won't be tossed aside in a patch or so? Going for your favorites would at least result in some sort of emotional reconciliation. Oh, just pull for Harmony characters, you say. Have you forgotten that Sparkle is now considered to be not so good of a pull? That only took a little over a half year. Powercreep is only going to accelerate from now on. Telling people to just pull for meta-defining Harmony characters, which Sparkle was when she was first released, by the way, is less helpful than you think. Which brings me to the last point. The topic of pulling Harmony characters to make old characters usable. This shouldn't even be a thing in my opinion. Let us not forget this. Believe it or not, many gacha games retroactively buff or rebalance their old roster of characters so that they are still worth pulling for, like Grand Blue Fantasy, Fate Grand Order, Epic 7, Summoner's War, Puzzle and Dragons, etc., etc. Why would they do that? Well, variety of reasons. Number one, because these companies want players to pull for old characters, because otherwise they would be dead inventory that no one wants to buy. Which is exactly what happens in Honkai Star Rail. No one really wants to pull for characters on a rerun anymore because of this entire shenanigans. Number two, adding a powerful support to buff old characters can have the opposite effect of buffing already powerful characters, which interferes with reason number one. Number three, no matter how powerful of a buffer developers release, structural issues with a character's kit may hold it back, meaning directly tinkering with the kit is the best way to address the problems. Number four, if you need to pull a dedicated support to make a character work, the high upfront cost discourages players from pulling old characters. Number five, for players who play the game for very specific characters, allowing those said characters to not fall behind will help with player retention. Being able to use the characters that you like without feeling you got penalized for it is really important for otaku-oriented games like these. So yeah, players should not be shamed for having quote-unquote bad pull plans. Hoyoverse should be shamed for not directly buffing characters and instead opting to sell you more shit to fix the problem that they created, because reworking not so popular characters' kit is a lot more work and it nets less profit than creating a broken Harmony character. Honkai Star Rail has a power creep problem only if you allow it to happen, either by greed or stupidity. Yeah, right. The only greed I see is Hoyoverse's. Anyways, I don't believe I have the superpower to convince an egomaniac that they are wrong, but this was more of a get this off my chest rant. I hope y'all enjoyed. Also, yes, I know Zhongli exists. You know he only got buffed because he's the Chinese Archon, right? We all know that he was the exception. Do not bring him up in the comments or I will block you, okay?